Okay, here's part 3 for the video lecture on memory for Sissonville High School. We just got through talking about forgetting. Now, amnesia is a more serious form of memory loss, and that's your definition for amnesia. It is a serious form of memory loss. That's the best and simplest definition that I can give you. So again, we're not just talking about, you forget that you have a test, or your girlfriend or your boyfriend tells you to do something and you forget, or you forget to pick somebody up for a date. We all forget. It happens. My wife sends me to the store with a list of like 2 things and I forget one of them and I have to call. That's not amnesia. Amnesia is more serious than that. Amnesia often involves forgetting major components specific to your life, like maybe your name, parts of your identity, where you live. And a lot of times what you're going to find is that amnesia is a result of serious trauma, physical trauma, like a blow to the head, or sexual trauma even. Rape victims I have talked to in therapy, sometimes they suffer from amnesia. They completely forget major pieces of their lives and pieces of their relationship with people who abuse them. 2 types of amnesia right off the bat: retroactive and anterograde amnesia. Retroactive amnesia simply and again, when you think of retro, think of like back in the day. That's kind of how I remember this. Retroactive amnesia refers to amnesia or memory loss for things that happened before or prior to a trauma. Okay? Retroactive amnesia again refers to memory loss for things that happened before or prior to a trauma. So for example, if I'm teaching class and I walk outside and a disgruntled student hits me in the head with a textbook, hopefully that won't happen, and I'm unconscious, okay, hypothetically, and then I kind of come to, I drive and get home, and my wife says to me, "Brandon, you look kind of funny. What happened? What this big bump on your head?" And what I say to my wife is, "Well, I do remember driving home from Sissonville High School, but I don't remember teaching class. I know I was there. I think I was there, but I don't remember anything that happened before that." That would be retroactive amnesia. Anterograde amnesia is the opposite. It's memory loss subsequent to or after a trauma. So using that same example to keep it simple, say I walk outside after class and a disgruntled student from Sissonville hits me in the head with a textbook and I lose consciousness. I come to, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting in my living room with my wife several hours later, and she again says to me, you look strange, Brandon, and this big bump on your head, what happened?" And what I say to her is, I remember teaching class, I remember being there, but I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember, did you come and get me? Or did I drive home? And I don't recall the events that happened after the head injury. So that's anterograde amnesia. Again, memory loss for things that happened after the trauma. Amnesia can be 4 things. It can be global, specific, temporary, or permanent. Sorry about that. Start with global. If amnesia is global, that means the person forgets everything. They lose memory for their identity, who they are, where they work. It's just like basically starting from scratch. Now, people generally with amnesia, they don't lose the ability to function or to ambulate. They can walk around, they can perform bodily functions, they can drive cars. They don't lose the ability to execute functions. They just lose memory for those, those biographical and autobiographical events. Amnesia can also be specific. A lot of times, and most of the time, amnesia is specific. People will lose memory for specific parts or components of their lives, like relationships or where they live. It can be temporary, which is short-lived, or it can be permanent. Sometimes amnesia is permanent. Now, write this in your notes as well. The most common combination here of amnesia is specific and temporary. Most of the time, people who suffer from amnesia, they don't suffer from it forever. There's the temporary part. And it's just for a specific area of their lives, not everything. So again, most commonly, or rather the most common combination of amnesia is specific and temporary. Changing up a little bit here. There are different types of memory that your book talks about, and I'm going to talk about a few of them here. Flashbulb memories. Flashbulb memories are memories for personally important events of your life. Okay, flashbulb memories, again, are memories for personally important things in your life. These are things that you can probably remember. Your first day of school, maybe grade school or middle school or high school. I bet all of you can remember your first day of high school. I know you guys aren't 21, but maybe your 16th birthday. That could be a flashbulb memory. You probably remember those events, good or bad, or both. Wedding day could be a flashbulb memory. Or the day that you started dating, because probably none of you are married, the day you started dating your first boyfriend or girlfriend. Birth of a child. These are all examples of flashbulb memories. Autobiographical memories. This is the next type of memory. Autobiographical memories are very simply memories for events of your life. Now, they may or may not be personally meaningful. That's the difference between these two. Okay, flashbulb memories are memories for personally meaningful events. Autobiographical memories are for your life as well, but they may or may not be important. There are a lot of things I can remember about my life or things that happened to me that have no personal importance. They don't mean anything, but at any rate, they happen, as you can kind of see here. I remember the first time I ever danced with a girl in junior high school. I thought I was the coolest guy in the world, and when I went back to my corner where all the guys were standing, one of my friends very quickly pointed out to me that my fly was unzipped, and I looked down begrudgingly, and sure enough, that was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. Is it personally meaningful? No. Is it embarrassing? Yeah. And it is something that happened to me, so it does count as an autobiographical memory. I remember beating a guy in basketball. I was trying out for the basketball team in high school, and this guy was kind of showboating and he didn't like the idea that I was going to try out, so he challenged me to a one-on-one, and I kind of knew I could beat him, but I didn't want to embarrass him too much. So I let him get up on me a little bit, and then I ended up coming back and beating him at the end in front of half the school. So that was even more gratifying. And I remember for the 1 second that I felt really good after that, I remember he got really mad and proceeded to, as you can see, that's exactly what he did, rendering me unconscious in front of half the school. Again, personally important? No. Embarrassing? Yeah. And also another embarrassing moment for me. I remember being at a concert in 1989. I attended a Bon Jovi Skid Row concert. That's what they looked like. Bon Jovi is still around, but this was a band. These were bands back in the 80s, the height of their popularity. And I remember being at the front row, and the lead singer of this band right here, there's the guy sitting on the box. His name is Sebastian Bach. Had a cup, a red Solo cup, much like that had beer in it. And the reason I know it had beer in it is because he drop kicked it while he was singing, and I didn't think much about it. And about 5 seconds later, it hit me in the head. It just landed right on me. Beer in it, soaked my clothes. And here I am, I'm like, 16, having to go home to my parents and trying to tell them this story about how I really wasn't drinking, but this guy kicked the thing of beer and it landed on my head. Yeah, right. So we know how that goes. Again, and there are millions of autobiographical memories that we all have. Yeah, so there's the image of, that's what that guy did to me, by the way, when I beat him in basketball. Shame on him. The next type of memory, incidental memories. I have a lot of these. Incidental memories are memories for things that you have, but you're making no effort to remember them. So you remember them incidentally. Again, incidental memories are memories for facts or things that you make no conscious effort to recall. That's me. I remember things I don't need to know, but I can't remember the important things like my daughter's cell phone number. I remember some examples from my life. I remember I had a really awful preschool teacher. It was paper airplane day, and we would all take our piece of paper up, and she was going to fold it and make a plane for us, and then we could fly. When you're 4 or 5 years old, that's pretty cool. And this teacher didn't like me, so when I got up, it was my turn in line, and I got up to her. She took the piece of paper, literally, this is what she did. She wads it up, says, "Here's your airplane," and throws it, hits me right in the face with it. So, not very nice. And I remember that to this day. Did I make an effort to remember? No, but I do. And I also remember that she had really, really bad body odor. And I remember the perfume that she would wear, because 25 years later, when I was walking through the mall, I could smell could smell that perfume. And it had been that long since I'd smelled it, maybe even 30 years. And I remember looking around my shoulder thinking, where is she? That teacher, she's here somewhere. So, again, I made no effort to remember that, but those memories stuck with me. E equals MC squared. I made no effort to remember that. Any horrible song by Lady Gaga or Miley Cyrus, just kidding, kinda, by the way. Really bad songs that I make no effort to recall. I know every word, every line to every song, which really is unfortunate. I can remember sports scores from like the 1970s. I don't know why I would remember that, but I did. It stuck. Jingles from commercials in the 80s. That's the jingle for the Big Mac. The next type of memory, procedural memories. Now, procedural memories, we're talking about memories for well-learned muscle tasks. So we're basically talking about muscle memory. Okay? Memories for well-learned muscle tasks or muscle memory. Riding a bike. It probably took you a while to learn how to ride a bike without training wheels, but once you got it, like the saying goes, it's like riding a bike. You don't forget. If you haven't been on a two-wheel bicycle in 10 years, you could probably jump right on it and go because that muscle memory takes over. Juggling is an example. Driving a car. For a lot of you, it probably took a while to really get comfortable steering and hitting the gas and the brake and moving the car. But once you got the hang of it, you could almost do it without thinking about it. That's procedural memory. Texting on your phone. You know, my daughter can get on her phone in a dark room with no light source and just fly because her muscles know, her fingers know where to go. That muscle memory is there. Okay. Probably took you a while to learn how to text, but once you got it, you can just fly with it. So those are all examples of muscle memory. Other more broad types of memory include declarative memory. So these are essentially memories for facts that are not constrained by time. Okay? In other words, these are memories that you have, but you don't, and you remember these things, but you can't remember exactly how old you were or where you at when you learned it. Memory for facts, such as what your significant other looks like, something your mom or your dad said when you were younger. The whole idea of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I remember my dad telling me that. If you screw something in toward the right, it makes it tight. If you screw like a light bulb, for example, to the left, it brings it out or makes it loose. Episodic memories, and we're almost done here, are memories for facts that are constrained by time. Okay? Think of an episode. An episode exists within the continuum of time somewhere. So these are memories that you have for things that you can recall how old you were or where you were at. Your first kiss, you could probably remember how old you were and where you were at. Your first date, your first fill in the blank, whatever. The first time you drove a car, you can probably remember exactly where you were and what was going on. So there you go. Now, semantic memory, again, these are memory for facts that are not constrained by time. And I need to back up because I think I misspoke. When I was talking about declarative memory is basically, these are memory for facts, period. Sorry about that. Episodic memories, again, I got that one right. These are memories for things that are constrained by time. You can place them within the context of time. Semantic memory, these are memories for things that you have. You know this stuff, but you cannot tell me where you were or how old you were when you learned it. Who was the first president of the U.S.? Well, you're probably saying George Washington. Well, how old were you and exactly where were you when you learned that? Probably don't know. What does an elephant look like? You could describe an elephant to me right now. You could describe it's a big animal. It has, the long trunk, grayish, brownish in appearance. Well, exactly where were you and how old were you when you learned what an elephant looked like? You're probably not going to be able to recall that. How do you screw in a light bulb? What color is a stop sign? I mean, again, you know these things, but you can't pinpoint a day that you learn this stuff. And that concludes the last of the 3 video installments for the lecture on memory. Thanks, guys.